welcome to the Culture as a Currency session, right? So we thought this was a really important conversation to have because basically culture is a currency. It's the engine that runs everything else. It's how we tell stories. It is how we make sales. It is how we create, innovate, and build solutions on the continent. So my name is Helen Fataye. I will be your moderator today. But this is going to be a little bit different of a session because it is about creators. So my background is I run a consulting company called F3 Global Advisory Group based out of the US, but we do market entry and we support capital moving into this market. So all of the US investors that came, we were part of bringing them here, and we thought it's really important that they show up to these tables and have these conversations. This panel is a really interesting panel because you have all sides of creativity. To my left here, we have Ms. Buhle Phiwe, who is from the African Union. So she's going to set context for us, and we're going to talk about what does it mean to have policy behind us. To her left is Polycarp Owino from Sauti Soul, one of the best-known groups out of East Africa, but has been doing not just the business of creating art, but the business of creating solutions across those industries. And to his left, I mean, if you're Ghanaian, you clearly know who he is, right? That's, I mean, listen, this is Mr. Joey of Blacvolta, of course, right? And then we have one more person here who's local to Ghana as well, but she's creating fashion all across the world. Aisha, she'll be joining us in a little bit. But before we do all the niceties of having this conversation, I feel like it's creativity. We have to create something. We have to have art show up. And I'm gonna invite Polycarp to play us a little song on a product that he just launched, which is one of the probably it is the first high-end luxury guitar coming out of Africa. So you're gonna get a chance. This is a first for you guys, right? It's a first for the continent, actually. I mean, listen, if you see the guitar, which you guys will have at the end to actually like look at it, touch it, and all that, you'll see what kind of guitar it is. It's not cheaply made in any ways, but it shows that we can create quality products on the ground from creators, by creators, and for other creators globally. So Polycarp, it's your little show. Go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everyone. How are you guys doing? So this is my first. I'm a full like creative, 100%. But I'm also a music entrepreneur, and this is my first tech summit. And I was gonna say like you guys are so serious. I was telling Helen before, like tech people are very serious and proper. And I was saying if this was a creative, full-on creative summit, yeah, it would be so much noise and everything. But all the same, I have enjoyed myself because I'm learning a lot from all the panels that I've seen and the workshops I've been part of. So I'm really happy to be here from Nairobi, Kenya. And yeah, what Helen said, this is the first brand of guitars out of the continent. And I think we'll speak about ownership deeply later on. Guys, you can clap harder than that. I mean, it's make me feel nice about myself, at least. Yeah, and I'm gonna start with a song which I know nobody has done in this whole summit. So do you guys want me to do a song actually? Okay, okay. So I'm part of a little known band called Sauti Soul from Kenya. How many of you guys know Sauti Soul? Oh, okay, cool. Oh, okay. Sauti Soul, yes. Okay, so which song do you guys want to hear then, if you know the band? Ah, I'm just gonna do a cappella because there's no like connection to the guitar and everything, but I hope you guys can hear me. Oh yeah, I have my helpers here. One on the guitar, one on the voice. Susanna, I hope you're happy now. I see you change your skin color. and your hair is longer now. Kuona pari hapo kando ya Champs-Elysees, ukitesa na kamini, yeah, 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 yeah. My busy days, and I see you in London, silicone on your bum, shaking what your doctor gave you, on your worst behavior, Susanna Bandeira. Hello, hello. If you get to hear the song, somebody love till me hear you sing. Change your mind and come back home. Somebody love. Something warm up, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're done.
Okay, guys, go
Thank
home
y'all for
now. Go
coming,
home.
Buhle.
Thank
Go
you for
home.
coming. Thank you for coming.
Awesome, cool.
Awesome. So thank you guys. We wanted to kick that off because yes, we are at a FinTech Summit, but no, this is a creative session, okay? So before we get into like the technical conversations, and then we're gonna take some time to answer your questions. So this is gonna be a little bit more free flowing. But I do want to set the context first, right? So it's important in creative industry that we know exactly where we are and how we monetize, where we monetize, how we distribute, what the policies are really important frameworks for all of us, whether you are a musician like Polycarp, or you're a filmmaker, or you're a content creator. It does matter what the frameworks are in your country, but also globally, right? So I would love our friend Phiwe here to answer the first question, and that's really setting the framework. So, how would you describe the state of Africa's creative industry today from both a policy perspective and a continental perspective?
Thank you, Helen. Great question. So let me just briefly introduce myself. My name is Buhle Phiwe Hlatshwayo. Struggling a little bit
I
with
was
it, but
struggling. I'm
it's
sorry.
okay.
South African accent.
I'm with the African Union. I head up the Sports, Arts, and Culture Division, and we basically look over 16 subsectors from music to fashion to film to gaming to production to music, you name it. So that's why it was important for us to be here because you can't do those things without tech. So we're glad that the techies have finally invited us here. But to answer your question, Helen, it's a very good, it's a very important question, and I'm going to get a little bit bureaucratic. I know we start off on a high note, but I'm going to bring some stats and figures. Essentially, what we have currently is what we call the African Union Model Law, and it actually focuses on protecting the cultural property of artists, right? Because what we found is that artists don't own, they don't tend to own, they have tend to own IP ownership. So it's one of the biggest issues that we've seen there's a big gap for. So what we do is that we have come up with packages such as IP-backed loans, digital payment rails that reward creators, and they instantly reward them through streams as well as through cells. So this AU model law actually is active. It is on our website. It's a portal that creators can actually use to ensure that they are protected in terms of their IP ownership. So I do encourage creatives to please do, tap into the portals that we do have. I do feel that we don't do enough in terms of visibility, in terms of communicating what we do for creatives, but that's why I'm glad that we hear that because we do have these initiatives and mechanisms in place to ensure that artists have the mechanisms to ensure that they have ownership. So currently, that's the current model that it's called the AU model law. And if you go to our AU website, you can have access to it and sign up, and you can then start the process of ensuring that your IP ownership is protected.
Thank you. How many of you knew about these products that are being offered by the AU? Well, that's why we're here, right? Awesome. Thank you. And that's really important, right? Like knowing how to protect the asset classes. I'm sorry, knowing how to protect the products that you bring to life. It's not just for fun, it's not just a hobby. It's really a business, honestly. And you need to be able to monetize it, whether it's locally in your home country, regionally in the region, or continentally. So I kind of want to jump over to Joey really quickly. Yes, you. And ask because you have gone from hosting events to creating an entire platform online where creativity really happens, right? And now you're just launched a recent technology, more like a fintech product. So how are we being received locally and globally, right? Can you give us that perspective? Like how are our stories, our products, our events being received, especially Ghana being like the end of the year party zone?
Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Joey Adjei, Creative Director and founder of Blacvolta. Just to give you a brief background, we started this about 3 years ago, documenting nightlife, entertainment, and lifestyle across Accra. It started off as a hobby, and 3 years down the line, here we are. Who would have thought that a passion product would now emerge into fintech? But that's where we are right now. For those who don't know what we do, we are essentially one of the biggest digital media platforms in Africa. Right. So to answer your question, um, for me, storytelling has been the core root of what we do within Black Volta. Right. So traveling around the world, even when we are covering events from the Grammys to the NBA All Star Weekend to the ball to everything, we've been able to garner a following of across all our platforms. We have about 3 million followers, and 70% of that followership is in the diaspora. Now, the benefit that we have with that kind of analytics is that the people outside of Ghana in the diaspora community are consuming our content. And it's the way in which we are telling our particular stories. We are not telling the stories to actually fit into their narrative. This is how Dirty December is. Let me give you, I'm very practical when I'm answering some of these questions, right? So, Dirty December in Ghana, we party all the way till 8 a.m. Do you get me? And that is what, just an example, we've been honing on that for the past 3 years. So now that storytelling is all across the world. Ghana is known as that destination for Dirty December that you know that you can party all the way till 8 a.m. Right. So it's more the authenticity within the stories to be able to have people come back to the country and then ascribe themselves to those particular cultures. Right. I use a typical example as one of my pieces. If you go on your phones right now and you put in top nightlife spots in Accra right now, for the interest of time, anybody should do it. Top nightlife spots in Accra right now. The Google searches and the Google results that they'll give you, the places do not exist anymore. Am I lying? The places do not exist online. So there's not a lot of data on entertainment, lifestyle, creativity, right? So that's where we built our platform to actually tell the story to the world. Back in the day, when you go on Google, you type Africa, you see a hungry child, right? As soon as you type Africa, it's just a hungry child and then all those particular things. But that's not the narrative that is happening now. So I know there's a big appetite for authentic stories that are happening from Ghana in terms of our fashion. Shout out to Chocolate who's here. Fashion, music, entertainment, right? We are telling the stories from our own particular perspective. We may have challenges in terms of monetization, IP, data control, but essentially the big thing for us, especially with Blacvolta, is really telling authentic stories. So the appetite is there globally. Locally, we just have some challenges when it comes to infrastructure and things like that.
That's good. So I love what you guys are doing, right? You're doing what Carnival is doing for like the Caribbean. You're turning Dirty December as a place for everybody, regardless of where you are, to come to Ghana to party. And my sister was here last year, and she can attest to she will never not come back here every year, regardless of her schedule. So you'll see her again here. But you did point to a really key point, which is globally, there's a huge appetite. People are consuming all of the things, whether it's the stories, the books, the products, the services. But from a local creator content or from a local creator perspective, how do you actually monetize and benefit directly from that? So Polycarp, as a musician, but you're also an entrepreneur. You have books, you have products like this guitar, and you have other initiatives that you have and businesses. So can you share a little bit about your journey towards monetizing this like desire that people have, right? And how do you benefit from it? And what are the challenges?
Yeah, cool. So actually, I was going to mention to my brother on my left that Kenyans party till 9 a.m. So we beat you on that. But what you're doing is brilliant, honestly. And we spoke just before we started that also developing something quite similar. So we'll have a side chat and see how we can do that together. But when it comes to monetizing creativity, so you did say yes. I'm a musician. That's how I started, and I think the day I decided to take music as a business, or we as a band decided to take it as a business, and those small steps, because when you're young, you're in your teens, or you just graduated from high school, and you discover that you have this great talent that has a big impact on people, on the society, and you love it, and people show you so much love, and most of the time you don't, like, you have a ceiling in how you think this is gonna go. Of course, you look to be a global star and all of that, but that's just the big picture. You don't see like everything that you need to do to get there, and that's where the business comes in. And there's a famous quote by Jay-Z where he said, what did he say? I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman, And when he said, there's actually a time he said when he started taking music as a business, that's when his whole life changed, sorry. And that's across the whole creative industry, whatever it is that you do in the creative industry. And growing up in a system in Nairobi, in Kenya, where literally there were no systems set up. And we hit the ceiling quite early, and we're like, okay, so how do we take this even higher? And we've been in the industry for 22 years. I know I don't look that old, so that's a good thing. And we had to set up a lot of structures that were literally non-existent. I'll give you an example. In 2015, we did an album called Live and Die in Africa. And this album for us, we literally, from the name, we just wanted to bring it, like, to take our music to the continent and be as big as we can be in the continent first, and then go to the rest of the world. But there were steps that we had to take and ceilings that we had to break that were non-existent. So we wanted to tour Kenya as a country, like do a proper tour. You know how you would go on the road in a bus and have a whole team of technical people, sound, everything, and you're going from city to city for literally 5 weeks. And something that has never been done, at least in Kenya, maybe other parts of Africa, it's been done. And it had to take us, like, to really think big. At that time, of course, we don't have funding. Nobody's giving you money. Nobody, like, really cares at that point. Even talking to corporates, it's like you have to really, beg, literally. Beg for them to see the big picture and see that this is what we are doing together. And doing that tour, it was so impactful in the industry in Kenya, all across the whole creative economy. Like, it was so big because you can imagine we employed, and that time we were young, we're like, maybe, how old were we? 28, 27, and impacting the industry in such a big way where other artists or comedians started doing the same. So we had a big bus that we branded, that we went around Kenya and across the whole of East Africa in that bus, and having a team following us all through. And it was really massive, it was successful, but we went on a crazy debt, like almost 10 million shilling debt. But it didn't phase us because honestly, what we did was so much bigger than that. And that's when everything started making sense. Corporate started saying, okay, this is what can be done. We ourselves also now started setting up even more structures. And that now birthed a record label. Later on, we have a publishing company. We do kids content. We have the biggest festival in the region in East Africa called Soulfest, that is yearly. So setting up those structures, I think, for me, is where the monetizing comes in, where you can really make sense out of it and have sustainability as an artist. So we create that ecosystem that once you're in it, everything just feeds onto you, and you can monetize well. Yeah,
So you touched on a lot of topics.
I did.
No,
I
no,
did.
no, but I think it helps build out the framework, right? So for those who are in the creator economy itself, you recognize that there's probably like five big challenges, which every person here, including myself, is probably either addressing, has faced, or is probably collectively still addressing, right? And that's monetization being number one. That's why this is titled Culture as a Currency, right? Really understanding how you can take culture, what are the products, services, assets behind it, monetize it, build the structures around it, and then have the ownership that's protected and enforced. So that's one, right? And we talked about that briefly. Then you talked about infrastructure, right? Which I think all of us have dealt with infrastructure as an issue at some point, and that's not just physical infrastructure, it's also digital infrastructure where fintech could really come in and support. And that's where, Joey over here is creating a new solution around. And then we talk about policy and frameworks, right? Because if we don't have the right policies, the right enforcement mechanisms, it doesn't work ultimately. Whether it's country based, regionally based, whether it's COMISA or ECOWAS, or it's at the AU level that we could tap into and enforce locally and internationally. And then the other two that I want us to go into is really this kind of like how do we get this stuff distributed out there into the market? Because technically, the continent doesn't have enough distribution platforms. Whether you're in film, and I work with a lot of filmmakers, now, on the US side, the diaspora has access to Netflix and everything else. They can get equity and at play at those spaces. But on the local side, the payment structure is not the same, whether it's YouTube or Netflix or Hulu or whoever else. But distribution is a really big issue, but that requires policy to show up, that requires infrastructure to happen, that requires the right understanding of readiness and financial, like how do you actually package, right? So this is going to be more of a group conversation, right? Because I think distribution doesn't matter where you sit, you're addressing it. So I'd love for you guys to talk about, we talked about monetization, but like what about the distribution problem that we have?
Okay, I think I'll go first. First, I'm glad that Kweku's here. Chocolate, hi, how are you?
Hi, Chocolate.
Because we've worked very closely with him. Who knows? Has anybody heard about Canex? Hands up. Intra Africa. Oh, okay, Canex. Okay, Intra Africa Trade Fair. Okay. So actually, we had the honor of having Kweku as one of our speakers. So this is now we at our sixth Inter Africa Trade Fair. We had the last one in Algeria just now this year. Last year was in Egypt, and Kweku came as one of the speakers, one of the many speakers in the art space. And I love that he's here because he can attest if what I'm saying is true or not. But essentially, what we saw at the AU is that we were very out of touch with what's happening on the ground, right? So what the Inter-Africa Trade Fair is doing is bringing creatives together with investors, right? It's really bringing the economy to the creatives. And it's in the sixth year now. It's in the sixth year now, and I think the pull out of Canex is really looking at the numbers, right? We are the youngest population in the world. That is so powerful. By 2050, one in four people will be black. So 1, 2, 3, 4 will be black. That is power, right? And majority of young people and majority of women are employed in the informal and formal sector, which is the creative industry. Yet at the AU, what we've seen is that we give a lot of funding and awareness to trade and agriculture and environment, and these are all very important portfolios, energy and so forth. However, where the young people are, where the women are, where the majority of the population is, that's not where the awareness is going. So platforms like the Inter-Africa Trade Fair, CANIX, is what we're doing is we really are saying, look, this is actually a powerhouse. It's a powerhouse of job creation. It's a powerhouse of moving the country forward. It is the future of the continent because it's where the young people are. That's where young people want to be. And Kweku was one of our great panelists who came and spoke on, obviously, the fashion industry and the challenges that he has. And I think what ultimately what I'm trying to, but just going back to, currency and distribution, the way that we distribute is to ensuring that we're bringing, we're creating a space where creatives can directly have access to trade or people that run trade. direct access to the Intra-Africa Trade Fair. I'm not the FCTA, the Free Trade Area Agreement. Is anybody aware of that? The head office of the Free Trade Agreement is right here by, is it the World Center? That's the AU Secretariat. The Free Trade Area Agreement is an agreement that's been going on for 6 years. Essentially, it stands for that countries can trade within Africa with no trade, with no tariffs and regulation. That is what the FCTA stands for. So the artists are also, you're also part of that, so that you guys can also trade your goods and services without red tape and tariffs. So I think it's twofold. I think as the AU, we need to do more intra-Africa trade fairs, more cannexes, more panels like this, more where the FinTech Summit is inviting us to panels like this. But also, I think also there's a responsibility to the artists as well to reach out to us. You know, the funding is there, but if we don't know where, the funding is required, we need you guys. Help us help you. I always say that. Um, there are there are initiatives, programs in place that specifically are there to assist, guide, fund, create collaborations, incubators. I mean, we had a Sony writing camp last year in Ghana 2 years ago. But these are people that are coming to us and saying, look, this is a proposal that we have, and we'd like to run it for 5 years, So I think also it's twofold. I think young people need to also take initiative and not say, oh, government is not doing anything. We actually are there to serve, but also help us serve, So I think I'll stop there. Peter, I hope what I said is, did I hit the mark? Okay, there you go.
Go. It seems like you're ready.
Okay, so your question is around how distribution, right? So I think for my answer, I'm going to break it down into three. And the first one is something that I picked for you yesterday, right? That really sat with me. I actually went home. I actually went home and then slept about it. And then what she mentioned was creatives just need to create more quality products, right? Distribution can only happen when, especially from people who have the money, when they see that you have a very, very quality product. And you use chocolate as an example. Anybody can create chocolate, right? But if the ingredients, if the packaging, if the aesthetics around it is great, you will probably find someone out there that really wants to distribute your particular item. So I'll go. One is we should really invest in quality products from Africa that we can export outside or that have an appeal to people who will be able to distribute that for us. Secondly, I would say the second thing is business structure. And back to using my example, Mavens, the music distribution company, have a JV agreement with Universal, right? The only way that could happen was they had a business structure around their music business. So your Rema, your Ira Star that you are seeing today globally, you understand, they didn't just get up and then become global stars. What they did was they had business structure behind them that made them create the arts that they were creating, but will also be able to package them in a way for global distribution. So that's the second thing. Now, the third thing I'll advocate is in terms of distribution, when you take things like Instagram, like the social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, which other platforms, Facebook, all these platforms, they are not African, right?
Thank you.
So you get up, you think about it, you can be creating maybe what everybody is creating here as a creator is worth $1 million, $1 billion. But if the platform isn't ours as Ghanaians, there's no way that go up and come down, you will not get that money. Currently, we don't have monetization in Ghana. Can you imagine? We don't have monetization for any of the platforms in Ghana. So imagine someone like a Dance God Lloyd, our influencers, and all these people creating amazing stuff who are on these platforms that are giving them almost a penny to a dollar. You understand? So creating our own platforms will probably the best way to distribute our particular content. Hence why we are launching the Blacvolta app in a few minutes, where yes, we can be posting the content, media, nightlife, lifestyle, entertainment everywhere on all these particular platforms. But now we are taking that community into our own ecosystem and then going to be putting our content there. So imagine the podcaster we have with Blacvolta, right? If we have 1 million views on each podcast and I put that on Spotify and I get $10 for that, and I put that same podcast on the Blacvolta app, and everybody, all those 10 million people give me $1 every single month. Think about it. So I'll end my story there.
Yeah, clap, please go ahead, clap for him. You literally touched on the exact same thing I was gonna say. Because for me, I was gonna say like Africa is a very unique market. We all know that in all sorts of businesses, Africa is so unique. How we do things, how we do business, how we communicate to each other, it's very different. Yet we adapt to all systems that are not ours. I will tell you for a fact, if someone right now came up with even this Blacvolta that you've come up with, or like a streaming platform that benefits us as Africans in terms of how we put out content and how we make money from it, then everyone will shift their content to that platform. I mean, that's my dream, honestly. Because Spotify, for instance, it's Swedish, right? And you'd be surprised that the hometown or Europe, they benefit so much more, the creatives from Spotify, so much more than anyone else in the world. And who's on the bottom of the list? Take a wild guess. It's us. It's Africa, you know. When it comes to how much money we get, as you said also, which I was gonna say, how much money we get from these platforms, our share is literally minimal. And it's different even in Africa, like what South Africa gets and what Kenya gets is very different. Yeah, so it's we need to just create our own solutions to our own problems, honestly. And for me, that's how we'll get to distribute. And I'm talking as an artist in this case. We're able to distribute our music to our people. Actually, another thing actually that happened in Kenya, because as unique as Africa is, and we were speaking about this yesterday, every country is also unique in its own way in terms of how they do business. So I remember Apple Music when they came to Kenya, and they were told, listen, Kenyans, we use, I don't know, how many guys know M-Pesa? I've heard of M-Pesa. So M-Pesa is like, it's like Momo, and where we all know how Momo works. If you're not able to have a bank account, or you get just little money, you use your M-Pesa or your Momo, and that's your bank account, and that's how you pay for everything. Like literally in Kenya, there's no cash. Even the ladies selling fruits in the streets never has cash. They use mobile money. And when you tell that to institutions or corporates that are coming from outside, that listen, you need to adapt to this if you want to come into this market, I'm like, no, this we do this is it's worked all over the world. Why should it need to work here? And you have a case now where Spotify came in and adapted with M-Pesa, and they surpass the rest. So I'm just saying, I would love a situation where we create our own. And I guess you're going to touch on ownership. And for me, that's a key thing. That's the biggest benefit that I feel we can get, we can give ourselves even as Africans. Yeah.
Thank you. I think what everybody
Oh, yeah, please
brought.
clap, clap, clap. Thank you.
Yes, please clap. Yes, yes. What you guys are bringing forward is I think we know the problems, right? I would say in the we all know the problems. Doesn't matter if we go to Ghana, you're facing similar challenges to Kenya, to South Africa, maybe at different scale, right? Because of where our markets are, but we all know what the challenges are. We also know how to create the solution, right? Look at what fintech did for the continent. It went from 0 to literally 100, and we started producing unicorns on this continent that are globally funded and globally recognized. But it takes capital, right, to build those platforms, to scale those platforms. And sometimes I live in the world of bridge building where I am constantly in rooms every day with investors, whether they're local pensions, local investors, international investors, and then I turn around and I sit in the other rooms where I'm with creatives or with the fintechs or whatever. And the thing that I see is that we're not talking the same language. It's all English. But when you say, if I say, hey, I just landed in Ghana, and you're like, you're welcome, an American investor is like, I didn't say thank you. Whereas you just mean like you're welcome to my country. It's a different language. It's the same English, but more in that we're not talking the same language around business, right? Creators don't really understand their business very well, right? Not that they don't know how to create. They make some of the most beautiful products, but they're not always well equipped on the business side of it, and especially in their packaging and their marketing and in their financials. Investors do not understand creatives at all. Okay, how does a film get financed? How does the Polycarp manage to make money? Right? How does a platform for industry really make sense? They don't get it, right? So we have to kind of build that bridge and speak the same language. And no, it's not about taking on their language, but it's about understanding how to respond well to be able to open and unlock. And it's not just international capital; it's local venture capital has the same problem. Okay, like your local ventures that are sitting here don't understand this industry. So I'm gonna wrap with asking you guys to answer one question, and you can answer it however you want, which is in the next 5 years, what do we need to do, knowing that we have a bridge building issue, knowing that we need to create our own platforms, knowing that we know the solutions, like what needs to happen from either the industry or wherever you serve, what needs to happen, what would success look like in 5 years for us? And then we're going to open it up to Q&A for a couple.
Yeah, I actually want to hear from the audience. I'll make it very quick. I mean, with us, I mean, it's funding, right? The African Union, every February, 55 presidents come to the headquarters in Addis and they give money to us. They pledge money, and we take that money and we create programs and initiatives to ensure that my portfolio is arts and culture. So to ensure that artists are being funded for, right? So how do we make the world better in terms of what I do? Is creating more funding mechanisms, right? So one of the actually the key funding model right now that's working is called Afrism Bank. Who knows about Afrism Bank? Hands up. Okay. So Afrism Bank is what you call a development bank. It's similar to DBSA. It's a bank. It's autonomous. Is rectified to the AU, similar to how the World Bank is rectified to the UN. But it's a bank. But it is aligned to our mission and our vision, meaning that it gives loans to artists and other initiatives that are aligned with the ethos of the AU, which is community building, sustainability. Their loans tend to be tax-free. So for example, Blacvolta, let's say you go to African Bank and say, look, I'm building this platform. I've built it already. I want to expand it. I would love to have a loan for 2 years. And then they give you the loan. And when they come back and say, hey, Blacvolta, you've done a really good job. We actually want to give you another 2 years, right? The bank does that. I don't work for the bank, so I'm not gonna, tell you exactly the nitty-gritties. But what I'm trying to say to you is that the bank is there to they reward work that is showing community building and is interest free. So if you come there with a plan and you come back 2 years later and you've done that plan, they give you 2 more years or 3 more years, right? Their job is not it's not like an EcoBank or an ABSA or, Investec in South Africa. It's a development bank. It's there to develop. So again, Afrism Bank, DAB, DBCA, they're there to provide funding. They are funding developing entities, especially artists. Reach out to them. They're there for you, right? And their loans are interest free. Don't quote me on that. Most of them are. Or the interest will be very low, but they reward through impact. Impact being community, impact being you moving the content forward through artistry, through empowering women through agriculture. If you are doing something that is moving the country forward or the continent forward, you are rewarded by being given more funding. So again, also I think it's important for us to also let's tap into these funding. They are there. Let's tap into them. Let's not just I love how artists rely on themselves a lot, but really, government is not just there as a funder. We're also there as a beneficiary, not a beneficiary, also there as a pillar. We're there to actually um, I think we sometimes we seen as this institution that is, that is unreachable and that is unattainable. But also at the same time, we literally are there to ensure that your goals are reached. So long story short, I know I'm long-winded, I'm being a politician, but Afrexim Bank, um, that will be my that will be my key takeaway. When you leave here, Google Afrexim Bank, and that will be the future.
We
I'll
need to
stop
talk
there.
about that bank. But
Yeah, we'll talk
okay.
about the bank.
Next.
I'd say what I'd like to see within the next 5 years is more collaboration amongst ourselves as a continent. I feel like the solution is within us before looking outside first. Um, I'm sure many people wonder, for instance, why doesn't, let's say, Burna Boy, for instance, why won't he do a full-blown tour in the continent as he would do in Europe? I'm sure it's not because he doesn't want to, but it's the systems sometimes fail, or you want to put the same world-class show as you were putting out there in the continent, but there's so many obstacles which can be overcome. It's not that they cannot be overcome, they can be overcome. And we'd love to see our own artists touring the whole continent and really being out there, and yeah, us being part of their journey and them being part of our journey as well. So I'd say in terms of solutions, and also like looking for more, as we look for solutions within, is to look for more African investors as well, or Black investors within our businesses. For me, that's, I feel, is very key in moving us forward. As you can tell, I'm very Pan-African, so everything is Africa, Africa, because I believe we have our solutions, to be honest. We don't need to always look out there, and the grass is never necessarily greener out there. We have everything that we need here, and we have the people, and even what you're talking about, all these places that we can tap into to get funding or development or whatever it is that we are looking for is within us. So I would say I'd want to see more of that in the next 5 years, and I know we can achieve so much more that way. Yeah.
Okay, great. Hello. Yeah, so great stuff. So I think that the question is in twofold. In terms of funding, I don't know, probably for us as the Blacvolta team, we are very big on looking for funding within. What I mean by that is even when it comes to business knowledge, right? Having a right business knowledge, right, around your business will actually open you up. Information, just access to information, right, will open you up for so much funding that you necessarily don't have to beg anybody for, right? So that's one thing that I would say, information. Secondly is when we are getting into partnerships, and I like that Kojo is here. Kojo, hand up. So Kojo was a former country manager for Paystack, right? So he did the integration for our app, right? So what I wanted to say about that is that sometimes it's not only about the money, right? It's about partnership, right? Even the guys that are building our app for us, if we couldn't probably afford the app, right? But if we had a term sheet for the next 5 years, that made it that, okay, can you build that app for us when revenue comes? This is the revenue split type of thing. So it's not always cash before. That's why I say it still goes back to information and business knowledge to actually find out what kind of mechanisms you can actually place before your business to make it propel. In the next 5 years, what I want to see is, and I'm very passionate about this, I want more Africans to bet on themselves, right? We have the infrastructure, We may not have the infrastructure as much. We have the belief, we have the passion. And this is coming from someone, I was HR manager, I was leading HR strategy for General Electric, covering 15 countries within Africa, this was my lifestyle every single day, right? And I developed an interest for nightlife and lifestyle. And I used that to build a brand for myself. It may not work for everybody, but I took a chance on myself. And I just surrounded myself with a community and a network of people who believe the same thing. That's why I mention chocolate every single where I go. There's a new group of a new wave, especially in Ghana, of people who are betting on themselves to take creativity to the next step. Yesterday, we had a creator session, and they mentioned that back in the day, it was the brilliant students did science. If you're not so brilliant, you do visual arts. Now, the visual arts guys are the ones cashing out, right? So to end it, I'll just say, please let us bet on ourselves. We are Africans, we are brilliant, and we can actually do it.
Great way to end. So we'll stop there. Thank you guys to the panel. So we'll take a couple questions. No questions? And like real questions. And if you're gonna make a comment, say it's a comment.
I think chocolate. I mean, he's mentioned 3 times now, so I feel like it's
Okay,
chocolate.
she has a question first. So
Yeah, we want to hear
oh,
from
comment.
you.
Okay, go.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sophia Desande. Pardon my French, too much French in my English, but I'm pretty sure you're going to understand. I'm a marketer and business developer, but today I call myself a businesswoman. And the comment I would like to make is pretty much to follow what Joey was saying. In the next 5 years, I think what I would really love to see the creative industry to really do has to do with investment. And when I say investment, I'm not talking about any investor, but I'm talking about the creators themselves. Invest in yourself. You are your very first investor. And that means learning about your craft, understanding your craft, and becoming an expert in your craft. Because if you do not have the expertise in what you do, nobody will believe into what you do. And I think one example is Blacvolta. For being extremely corporate into believing that I can make something out of nightlife, especially in a country where, culturally speaking, there's a lot of stigma and judgment. But stepping out of this corporate 9 to 5, very strict, and saying, no, this nightlife, I'm gonna market it, and I'm gonna monetize it, and it's actually making sense. Also, when we spoke about going to companies, institutions to beg, let's turn the narrative. Why are you begging? You are begging because yourself, you do not believe into what you have. But when you have believed into yourself, you have believed into what you have and what you're offering, you do not beg because those institutions will come and beg to be with you. And this happens only when you invest into yourself. And investment means go silence, go mute, disappear, learn. If it's about signing for a course online, if it's about going and speaking to someone who has done it before you and learning from the person, do it. There's no shame. There's no shame in to do it. So invest into yourself. First thing is investment in your own self. Because you might think that you have the talent, but talent without discipline and without the hard work will take you nowhere. So that's why was my 2 cents.
Questions, comments? Okay, good. Now you faked this. That's not fair. Go ahead.
So I have a question. My name is Sambi Aliu. I have a question when it comes to you all mentioned creating the platforms, right? And then going forth to try to get investments into starting up these platforms. So if a young person is looking to, take those steps, what would you say would be the first steps that they would have to do in order to make it ready, right? They have an idea, they have a problem that they wish to solve. What are the first steps that one would have to do to be able to prepare that to present it in front of like potential investors?
I'll start, but I think everybody else can add to it. I can tell you now, every investor at every stage looks for different things, right? So if you're at pre-seed, they don't expect you to have the biggest traction. They're looking to make sure that the problem is a real problem. They're looking to make sure that the solution you're offering is something that will actually work and that there's a market for it. Local market, regional market, global market, because they're thinking long picture, right? So technically you're at that pre-seed stage. So they're looking for those things. Then they're looking to see that you have been able to galvanize a team beyond yourself that can create the solution. If you don't even have those three, nobody's going to talk to you. I'm just being honest. And I don't mean American investors. I mean local ventures here, right? Because money in means money out. I need to figure out how I'm going to get my money out, right? So I need to bet on the team. I need to bet on the problem and the solution. And I need to know that you know your problem so well that if I test you against and I ask you, you should know it better than me. So, like, to what her point was, you need to invest properly and you need to capture data. Like, can I say this about creators? Creators do not capture data well. We do not know on this space how to capture our own data. So for every interaction, you need to be able to tell your story, not just a fancy story, but a numbers driven story, right? So that's what the beginning stages are. If you have at least that piece, you can probably go to any venture, you can go to anybody who has access to any form of capital. It doesn't matter if it's a grant form, if it's a loan form, if it's venture capital money, like she was saying, development financing. They need to see those things. If you don't have that at a pre-seed stage, realistically, you're coming in with an idea that's not tangible. So at least let's start.
I think
Yeah,
you've said it really well.
I want to say, if you're young, you you have an. I'll answer your question with two premises. The first one is, you said investor. What does an investor want at the end of the day? That's what you need to ask yourself. So yeah, I can be creating a yeah. Nightlife is good. It's all good and well. But if an investor puts money in my platform, how are they making money? Oh yeah, I'm solving for gender equality all over the world. How am I making money at the end of the day? So whatever product that you're building, if you're creative, you need to first understand what your creativity is targeted towards. If you're gonna do music and you want to be an artist and then rise up to the level of Fela Kuti, great. But if you want to be someone who's monetizing off their particular business, you should know that for investment, they want returns. And secondly, this is one thing I'd like to say. I see a lot of incubators in Africa, right? A lot of them throwing money, VCs, venture capital. Today they are giving you money, they are doing all those things. And every creator wants investment, right? Every creator wants investment until the time it's ready to actually give you the money and they ask you for a piece of your creativity. I want $2 million. I want to scale my businesses. And you've built a product, and someone comes and I said, I'll give you $5 million, but that means giving me 50% of your business. Are you ready? Hey, me, I've built my own fashion brand. You want to take the money and you get what I'm saying? So those are the kind of questions you need to ask yourself before you go around asking for, especially those kind of venture capital. Are you willing to lose a piece of who you are or your creativity to be able to scale to the next level? I was having a discussion with a fintech gentleman outside. He was like, "Oh, you know what? The investors, me, I'm ready. With fintech, they can build the platform today, sell it for $2 million, and then build the same platform tomorrow. But with what you are doing, and music and arts and creativity, will you be able to build with chocolate sells his business or gets investment for about 50% of his business tomorrow? Can he build another brand? You get me? So those are the kind of the things that you need to ask for a young person who is looking for investment.
I'm gonna add this because I think it's a general problem I see in general when people talk about investments is you need to understand what type of capital exists. An angel investor is very different from a venture capitalist, right? Very different from an institutional pension or a bank or from high net worth individual who wants to give a little money. The expectations are different. The size of the checks are different. So if you're going to do any form of educating and you want money from somebody, educate yourself on who they are, what their expectations are, what they align themselves are. Are you a match? Because listen, investors will take your whole company. I'm not joking. I have seen it personally, okay? So, and the deals and the term sheets are require a lot of legal structuring. So, it is not an easy game to go into, and you need to be very serious and do the research, have conversations, and it's a two-sided conversation. People always think that they're doing you a favor. They're not doing you a favor. They got to deploy to get money back. So you need to make sure that you're asking them, what's your mission? Why are you here? Like, do you actually have capital? There's a lot of questions you need to ask. So it's a relationship. They're offering something, you're offering something. They're giving, you're giving. So learn this first before you go and talk to any, even a grant.
But just to add, and I mean, I love how they've covered the different types of investors and angel investors. You know, the AU is an NGO. We don't gain anything. We give you money. Our job is to give you money. But when you come to us, you need to have a moving machine. Okay, you know, we don't do startups. So you telling us, I have a little farm with 10 workers, 10 women. I would love to now make it bigger to 20 workers and expand it to Senegal. This is the 5-year plan, right? How we win is by saying, look at how many people we've helped. Look at how we helped this young woman who has a farm, who's now expanding it from Senegal to Togo to Nigeria. That's how I win. And that's how I get more money next year to give more women like you more money. So there's different tiers and there's different funding mechanisms. So she said, study, understand what you need, understand in which tier you are at. And then once you get to a tier where you're operating at an intergovernmental organization like the AU, which is an NGO, we're not there, we don't work with profit. Our win is to show impact, right? So when you come with a proposal, you already have a moving machine, and you telling us how you want this machine to be bigger and to be more impactful. Okay.
Okay, one more question, and that's it. Any?
Yeah, come on,
Yes.
come on.
All right. I think there was one more question. No? I mean, state your piece. All right.
Going once.
Twice.
Fun.
Gone,
I'm
right?
going.
Literally.
I mean, I didn't
All
see Bliss.
right.
Bliss is here. I mean, I didn't even say anything. Come on.
I
Bliss,
know the
come on.
comedian. We were
Even a
expecting a
comment.
question
Even a
from you.
comment.
Please, Your Honor.
Say that thing you were saying on the stage, I have a fair idea of, even though I've learned a lot also this evening. I'm a big supporter of Joey and this platform. Everywhere he goes, everything he does. We roll across the world. I see what he does. A lot of respect for him. A lot of respect for you and your band. An amazing job you do with the UN. And you've got incredible AU. You've got incredible advice to give all of you. All I want to say is everything said here is the real word. You've got to invest in yourself. You've got to prove. The proof is in the pudding. If you say you are, what's your name? What's your name? Red one. If you say you're a red one, and you are a or you built a fintech product, you have to be able to show. And I love the point you raised about the fact that creatives are bad at putting together data. Is that what you said? That's the gospel today. Creatives have terrible data when it comes to proving their business and the things you're doing. So for me as a creative, I've learned a lot today, and my appreciation on behalf of the entire audience for all the advice you shared today. And by the way, I'm going to become a comedian soon as well.
Thank you.
Again.
Okay, I guess we actually do have our last question in the bag from a fintech.
Everyone. Um, my name is Steven. So very excited conversation you're having, and I think I just want to share something. I started my business in 2016, and when I started, I mean, I felt I was doing very well. I was working with some of the big enterprises here in Ghana and all of that, and I wanted to expand, grow, right? So I started looking for investments, and questions were thrown at me, and then I realized that listen, I'm making a lot of mistakes. So the business model does not work for investments, right? Where you make money, you take money right from the same pot, do stuff, do stuff, do stuff, do stuff. There's no accountability for it. And then you finish at the end of the year. There's no audited account statements, like literally nothing. So if somebody wants to really tell how profitable the business is, you're unable to do so. And I think it happens to even a lot of creatives because you see, for creatives, they are always creating. They always want to evolve and do the next big thing, without really focusing on how to set up the business to make it investor friendly, right? Where the finance person can actually, if I want to know, for instance, if how much you've spent in a month, right? A lot of the time, it's very difficult for them to do so because they spend from the same pocket. There's no finance person looking at, the modalities and putting the commercial document in place and all these financial stuff that's required to make your business very investor friendly, right? And I think for a lot of us that are creatives here, we need to start looking at, how to really keep your books clean, how to ensure that you have accountability for the stuff that is being used for, even how you set your narrations on your bank statement. I didn't even know it was that important until I started looking for investments, right? So these are things that a lot of us ignore, where you're taking money from the account, you just put in narration, ECG bill, for everything ECG bill, right? You cannot raise any investments with that because they want to see your books, they want to see where the money is going, what you're using the money for, what the expenses are, what the profit is. It's so important. So I think for a lot of us here that are looking to, raising money to expand the business, we need to take a second look at how we keep the books, how to be able to capture your expenses in your bank statements, how to be able to have audited accounts made year on year and measure yourself to know that, oh, you're making profit 20%, 30%. These are the things that investors look for to see whether it's, investor friendly for you to be able to do so. So this is just from personal experience, what I've gone through and what I think we can do to be able to raise good investment.
I want to give an example of something that connects to what you said and what Joey said. So he mentioned Maven Records, right? So the company that invested in Maven Records is Kapunda Capital. It's an asset manager. They're based out of the U.S. So I know the team really well. And when we're working on launching something, and while we're working, I know the three founders really well. We went to them and we said, "You invested in Kapunda, like I'm sorry, you invested in Maven. What did you do? Why music? How did you get here?" And they said, we started with the end in mind, right? We started because we said, we see where they could be in the future. We're not sure if they know where they could be in the future. They probably know, but they need a lot of structure. And then they started thinking about the exit first. Like, we want to exit, merge, whatever the exit looks like at the end, right? Like the big picture looks like. And then you have to work with the structure that the big buyers want. So, governance, right? Like, how are you governed? How are you structured? What's your data look like, right? Are you audited annually for someone to feel safe? Does your team have the skills? The team you start with will not always be the same team you have in 5 years, 10 years, whatever. So, to your point, like that is a thing that's just not happening in the creative industry yet. It's gonna happen. It's there, and it is happening for many people who are understanding these pieces. But yeah, so thank you guys. We're gonna stop because it is a hard stop here. But thank you guys for coming.
Thank you so much.
We were supposed to do this for 30 minutes. An hour and a half later, here we are.
Can I,
So thank
can
you
I,
for staying.
can I just say something? In the words of Jay-Z, you could have been anywhere in the world.
But
But you're here
But
with me.
just to be here, so we
Yes.
thank you for that. We appreciate
Mic drop,
you. We
mic drop.
appreciate you.
And then Polycarp is performing at the reception.
And
He's gonna perform. Aren't you gonna perform at reception?
speak to my manager, please.
He's gonna perform at the reception.
Guys, I wanted
So
to mention that right after here, we are having the launch of the Blacvolta app and then the card in the foyer. So if you could
Awesome.
all come through, please.
Maybe we'll perform there.